All right. Hello and welcome back to Dream Girl. My guest today is Faiza Saqib and I am your host, Sheen. So Faiza is an Afghan journalist and storyteller based in London. Her love for storytelling sparked from a young age, and she later found herself drawn to the world of poetry, where she went on to publishing her first ever poetry book in 2017. Faiza has a bachelor's degree in journalism and produced work for publications such as Middle East Monitor, Unidays, Tolo News, and many more. Faiza is also yet to start her journey as a junior audience editor at the Independent newspaper and currently runs her own talk show called Beyond Our Bubble, which is now available on her Instagram page, which I will plug in the description box below. Hello, Faiza. How are you today?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you.
I know. I like how before the podcast we just had a 40 minutes chat, which could have just been part of the podcast. But it's really nice to finally meet you in person.
Likewise.
Exactly. So tell me, how are you? How's lockdown? How's life? Where are you at the moment?
I'm well. I'm keeping sane, I'm keeping mentally and emotionally stable as much as I can. It's been quite hard, and I think it's been quite a journey because during the course of the beginning, when this pandemic kind of took place, we didn't really know what was happening, and then we all got locked in with each other, and it was nice because I managed to get closer with my family because my sister, she came from Dubai for a holiday, by the way, to the UK, and then she ended up getting locked in with us. But it was a nice experience. We spent time together. It was quite difficult in the sense that there were a lot of losses of friends that lost family members. So it was a very difficult year also career-wise, but I'll say I'm in a better place now. But all in all, it's been great. It's been a journey. There's been hidden blessings. But yeah.
I agree. Very interesting year. So tell us, you said career-wise, it's been very interesting. Where were you at the start of, the pandemic? And now I know there's this interesting new job that's coming up. So walk us through the journey.
So before the pandemic, 2019, I actually graduated in journalism, which was a nice experience for me. And during my course of university, I was still doing a lot of work. So I was working, so I built on my portfolio, I kind of built on my resume. And then 2020 hit and I was applying for jobs. So beginning of the pandemic, I had like a few companies, like interviews that I had lined up. And then I got emails from those interviews saying, "We're so sorry, but we put recruitment on freeze and we can't go further with the application." And it was such a punch in the stomach because I thought to myself, it must be so difficult for graduates now to deal with everything that's going on, but also just trying to find what they can do in their career and trying to find their path and pave their path. And, following their dreams has become a lot harder than expected. So yeah, come 2020, obviously I was unemployed, but again, I was doing freelance work. So I tried to keep myself busy as much as I could. And I reached out to publications, said, pitched stories. Again, a ton of rejections or just no replies. And it was hard. I was just like, why is no one responding to me? Am I not a good writer? Are things quite difficult? And I struggled with getting back into the form of article writing because I had such a big pause. And I was just focusing on poetry quite a lot, to the point where my poetry would often come into my article writing, which made it a bit more flowery and not as structured. But I had like that support system around me that kind of guided me as well, and kind of mentors that helped lead me to the right direction. So I always had that kind of advice and leadership around me, which was great. So yeah, 2020 unemployed, and then come 2021. And again, I'm constantly like applying for jobs and getting rejections nonstop. I was so mentally drained at this point. I ended up planning, like coming up with a plan B, saying, okay, if this doesn't work, I need to go back to university and do something that would give me stability financially if I can't find anything. But deep down, I was praying. I was just like, please, I don't want to go with this handy. I have a dream, and I want to stick to that dream, because honestly, it would be such a, not a waste, but it would be very heartbreaking to me that I'm just doing something for the sake of keeping financially stable, when deep down I wouldn't be happy, right? So yeah, probably like right towards before I was about to give up, I had an email, and I opened that email. I was on the phone to, I can say my partner. I was on the phone to my partner, and I was like, you won't believe who emailed me. And it was head of digital at the Independent, and she goes, hey Faiza, can we invite you to an interview? And I was like, is this real? I don't understand. Because, okay, pause that, but a week prior or 2 weeks prior, I had another interview, and I went to the final stage, and this interview took a month of my time. So it was a month of my time. It was preparations. It was three, 4 stages of that interview, and I was at the last stage head to head with someone else. I didn't get it at the last moment, so it was like, and I didn't get it because of budget. So I was just like,
oh wow,
it's okay. So yeah, it was very heartbreaking, but at the same time, it was kind of like, it's okay, let's move forward, because I was very proud of myself, because at that point I hadn't experienced something so intense. Because different media companies hold different kind of interview processes, but this one was like fully like testing me. But it was a remarkable experience. I was proud of myself by the end of it, and it kind of allowed me to be a bit more confident for my next interview that was to come. So yeah, anyway, I got the email from the Independent, and she invited me for an interview, and we had the interview. It went very well. Like, I felt, after that interview, I felt very content. And I feel like in certain moments, you know certain things, because there's just this feeling you get, and you're no longer anxious, you're no longer nervous, and you're kind of like, okay, whatever happens, we'll just see. But I feel very good about this. I finished that interview, and then I called my friends and my partner, and I was just like, I feel like I got it. Call me crazy, but I don't know what's come over me, but I feel like I've finally done it. And then a week later, this is funny, because that day I went for my root canal. It was like the first root canal appointment. Sis, I had 4 injections in my mouth. I was in pain. When I tell you, I had finished the root canal operation, and then I was in the car. I was driving back with my brother, and I got an email saying, hey Faiza, do you have time to talk today or tomorrow? And
Anytime.
I was like, like right now, I don't. Literally, I'm not going to wait till tomorrow. She calls me and she was like, hey Faiza, hope you're well. So I just wanted to let you know that we'd like to offer you the junior audience position. My heart, when I tell you, it dropped, because it was that feeling of, I've been waiting for this feeling for so long. Not just like after I graduated, but during the course of me being in university, and like ever since being a kid, I dreamt of just being within the media industry and just expressing my stories the way I want, and just being able to share how I feel as a journalist, and, you know, bringing my ideas to life. And I just felt like at that moment, my dream was actually possible. So she called me, and I was like, I froze. I was like on the brink of tears, and she's like, so like, how do you feel? Do you want to accept the offer? And I was just like,
yes, please.
Yeah. I was like, obviously. I was like, yes, of course. Thank you so much. It would be amazing to work with you guys. And then, yeah, she goes, I'll send you everything and so on. So then I cut the phone, and then I sat there for like a few minutes, and I turned to my brother, and I was like, I can't believe I did it. I did it. I actually did this. And he goes, I'm so proud of you. And he had tears in his eyes, because I think my whole family,
everyone is in the journey, yeah.
Something like this. And yeah, everyone's like been through the journey with me. And also, it's such a competitive field. So when they heard that I'm about to give up, or not give up, or just kind of find something else to like keep that stability, they were like to me, Faiza, are you sure? Like, this is something you've been talking about since you were a little girl. I don't think it makes sense for you to like go into something completely different. And I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know. I'm going to keep trying. So just that moment of me just that one conversation that I had with my partner as well. And he said, you know what, you need to continue. You need to continue pushing through. You need to continue trying. Everything will be okay. After having those conversations, it pushed me to kind of, you know, continue applying. And then, that's when I got my dream job.
Congratulations. You know what, Faiza, just listening to your journey, I've been there too, right? 2020, applying for jobs, and all my friends, I can laugh about it now, but I've been to like 50 to 60 interviews, right? And like, I always make it to like the final round, and I never get the offer. And like, it's so crushing. I'm like, just reject me from the first round, you know, don't take me through the whole journey, because it just gets more and more painful. And then I just remember I will get my rejection call, and then I will cry, and I will talk to like my friends and family and tell them how hard this is. And everyone will be like, "I'll keep going. You know, you just need one yes." But you don't believe it in that moment that much, because at this point you're like, nothing is working out. It's definitely me, because I've done everything I could, and now they clearly don't want me, and nothing is going to happen, and you just spiral, right? You just keep...
I feel that to my very core, because after not the first rejection, but the rejection I had for that long interview, I don't know if I would call it rejection, but let's just call it rejection. It just didn't work out. But when I had that moment and I was in tears and I was crying, and because it was very hard. Obviously, you know the feeling. And my brother goes to me, he's like, "It's okay, it's a good learning curve." And I'm like,
I've learned enough, you know, I've learned enough. And then people will be like, "Oh, you know, it's just because this is just like all experiences, and then these are life lessons." And then I was like, I've learned enough, you know, like just give me something now. I don't want to. And then that's when, like, I remember this was like, my mom made a joke, and then she was just like, "Oh, you know, you need to stop asking prayers for like resilience. You should ask for ease." And I was like, I think you're right.
You know what, sis? I agree with this so much, because I think sometimes you pray, it'll be like, "God, give me strength," and this is Him giving me strength, right?
Ease. Just ask for ease. You know, it's enough.
Literally, but honestly, like, when that moment occurred, I turned to my brother and I was like, I feel like in this moment my prayers were accepted, and that feeling is
wonderful,
indescribable. I don't even know. It's incredible, and like, I'm very grateful.
I agree. Like, everything that happened, like, you know, you not getting that job and then getting the other one was just because it wasn't the right one for you. It wasn't the right time. And then it was preparing you, as you said, you became more confident with interviews. It was just preparing you for the final thing that you were going to get, which is exactly what happened to me as well. And now, you know, looking back in a happy place, you're like, oh yeah, it all makes sense. But when you are in the journey, you're just like, yeah, it's just...
That's so true.
Me too. And I think that's the thing, right? That's one thing that I feel like women especially, we struggle with. Like, I was so happy when you said I did it, because this is something that we don't do. And you immediately start thinking, oh my God, what if like this was a mistake? What if they just got me in by mistake? And like all the imposter syndrome. So I'm really glad you said that. Yes. So yes, we've done it. And now, you know, you're going to start your new journey, which is super cool. So tell me, why the interest in journalism, and also, you know, what's been your experience coming from, you know, according to me, the media world is a very like male-dominated, white people-dominated sphere where usually it's by connection and all of that. So how did you pave your way there?
Man, you know what? I've always said, like, from the beginning, I want a seat at the table, no matter how uncomfortable it is, even if it's a bunch of men staring at me at the table and being like, so, like, tell me your creative ideas. I will literally stand in front of them and be like, here's my creative ideas. Because this is the thing, until you actually stand up for what you want and pursue what you want, you're never going to be able to thrive, because you're building a barrier for yourself, and you're allowing that fear to take over. From a very young age, I'd say from the age of 11 or 12, I said to my family, I said to them, I'm going to study journalism. Like, I want to be a journalist. But I was very young, so my family kind of brushed it off like, sure, we'll see how it goes. But from then on, I kind of pursued writing. It was just a way for me. It was an escapism for me, because I grew up in a very broken home, so it was quite different for me. And I felt like expressing my emotions through writing and storytelling was the way to go about it. So I said to my mom, you know, I want to do this. And she supported me from the beginning. She goes, you know what, you can do it. Just do what you want. And I kind of went forward with that. But with that being said, I gathered a lot of experience. I think from in year 10, when they have like high school experience, work experience, from that age, I went on to Islam Channel just to kind of work with a media production team. So I reached out to them to volunteer. And when I went to volunteer for one of the charities, I said, can I speak to your media production team and just like maybe get work experience there? So I was constantly like annoying people, which is I think one thing you need to do. You need to be able to stand up for what you want and just be like, listen, please can I shadow you? Or listen, please can I speak to you? Or email this guy, and I have so many ideas, let me just express them. So when I did that, I then went on to get experience at The Guardian as well for like a week. It was just work placement. So there's different companies out there that gives you work experience for free, whether it's for a week or a month. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to get paid. Like it's fine. Like it's totally okay if you don't get paid. Like even when I was doing some article writing, I wasn't getting paid, but I was okay with that because I was like, you know what, I need to build on my portfolio, and who am I to constantly be like, yeah, pay me? Like, because at the end of the day, there are places that are constantly looking for writers and constantly looking for journalists. You just need to be willing to put your pride aside and not think about income for a minute and just think about, let me build and be the best that I can be. And that's what I did. So from a young age, obviously, I love
You don't
talking.
say.
So I love standing in front of a camera. I know. You're like, yeah, you're talking quite a bit, sis. Like, you tell. So like when it came to me just like being in my room, I'd hold like, I don't know, a bottle and be like, hi guys. Like it was just like super random, and I'd love the feeling of presenting or just, you know, being in front of a camera or sharing a story. As I said before, I grew up in a broken home, and kind of seeing that, I wanted to be a person that was able to amplify on the voices around me, rather than, I don't like saying being the voice for the voiceless. Everyone has a voice. I really don't like that.
I'm really
term.
happy
it's
you
very
said
irritating.
that.
I'm sure you agree. Yeah, I really hate that. I'd say amplifying on voices, because I say this because my mum, she doesn't speak English. So for me, it was a means of me sharing either her story or where she came from through my words, and that's English, right? Because people will be able to understand her story because she can't express it the way she wants to. So that's kind of why I wanted to pick that up, and seeing the way my country was being treated growing up as well, it kind of made me wonder, or seeing the labels that were put on Muslims, it kind of made me wonder, like, what are we doing to actually change this? Like, it's very frustrating, right? So that's when I picked it up, and I was like, you know what? I really want to do this, and I continued on my journey, and then I went to university and studied journalism. Funny thing is, right, I was in one of my modules, and I think this was East versus West, one of the modules we were in, and the lecturer stopped, and he was like, so guys, and it was a quite white dominated class, so it was me and like another hijabi, and it was quite white. It was interesting, yeah. So he goes to the class, so guys, do you know what's going on in Syria? Can I get a show of hands as to what's going on in Syria? And this was back in like 2017, I think. And it was me and the hijabi that put our hands up. And then we looked at each other and we were like,
this is depressing.
Oh no, this is weird. But I was like, no, surely, like,
it's in the news.
Surely you guys know. Maybe you're just nervous. And then he looked at everyone, he goes, I'm so disappointed. I don't understand what's going on. Even the lecturer said that. And then everyone just kind of looked at each other, and then he asked me, and then I was like, yes, this is what's happening. Because there was a lot of news that was breaking out around 2017 regarding Syria and stuff. So it was very interesting. My experience with university, I didn't have many friends. I'll be honest. Mainly because I found it quite difficult relating to people that would just talk about partying and, you know, university life, like student dorm life. And I couldn't relate in that sense. So I would always gravitate. In another module, I had like two other people who one was Asian and one was like black, so I would gravitate towards them because
We have
I
more
was
in
like,
common.
guys, I can't
Yeah.
relate to anyone else, so hey. And it just made university, like when I found my two friends in university, like a third year, it just made things a lot easier. First 2 years though, I hated uni, honestly. But I'd just like to point out, university life is very different. So just be aware that you are your own person, you're your own individual, and you need to be prepared to kind of be on your own sometimes, because I feel like life doesn't prepare you for university, and it's shown in a very different light. But then when you go there, you're an adult. You need to make sure you're ready for that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And you know, that's very interesting that you brought this up, the whole party life. And when you think of university life, or like when people say, I missed out on my university experience, they all refer to the partying, the drinking, and, you know, that very specific type of university life. But I feel like now more and more people are different to that. And, you know, there's no need for you to force yourself into that, because you are either doing something you don't want to do or you're on your own. That's not the case anymore. And it's about being comfortable with who you are
100%.
and what you want to do, and you will automatically find the people who are the same as you. And I think now we need to be a bit more broad about our description of the university experience, because everyone experiences different stuff. Like, I'm sure you had a great time after you met your friends as well. I had a great time at university, and it had nothing to do with partying, right? And I was like, I can talk about my university time for ages. And I think that's what we need to make a bit more transparent, so that people don't go into university thinking, I either need to conform or I'll be on my own. So
Yeah, I think discussing university life is so essential, because a lot of students, I was so nervous before I went to university, because I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to fit in, or how. I was quite awkward in university. I don't know why. I feel like I've gone through stages of life where I'm just like super shy, super awkward. Okay, now
you've
I
ticked
talk too
everything,
much.
you know. It's okay. It's a journey. Yeah.
I've gone through it all. Yeah. But I'm very grateful, because those experiences taught me a lot. And university, by the end of it, was great, because I made like 2 or 3 incredible friends, and we kind of just stuck by each other, and it was
Exactly.
hilarious.
It's fun. Okay, now that we're talking about friendships, you know, this is one thing I've been talking a lot about recently. So, yes, exactly. Yes.
That's me sipping
now,
my
now
tea.
we're going to
Sorry.
spill the tea. So, you know, I recently wrote a blog about female friendship, because I was thinking about this, you know, as a girl, when you have girl friends, it's such a different relationship. It's so intimate. People are so involved in your life, and, you know, they are happy for you and they're sad for you. And it's so good having that support system, because you know that 24/7 they're there, whatever you want to talk about, even if it's really stupid and silly, they will still listen. And like knowing that just brings so much self-worth and confidence in you, right? And I think that is a beautiful relationship. And when you compare it to male friendship, I'm sure, like, one thing I'm envious of in male friendship is how, like, they deal with conflict, which I think we don't necessarily deal as well as girls, right? They will be like, dude, you should not have done that. Okay, cool. Fine. We're fine. Like, there's no grudge. There's no resentment. It's all fine. But then sometimes in female friendships, like, there's built up resentment because we don't want to hurt the other person, so you don't address the problem. That's one thing they have better than us, but otherwise it's not that great. Yeah. Otherwise they tell their friends that they're getting married like 2 days before, you know. Yeah,
Sounds like
exactly. So
someone I know.
it's a bit weird. But yeah, no. So that's one thing, right? The beautifulness of female friendship. But then there's also the other side, which I don't know if you have experienced, where nowadays, you know, the more you grow up, the kind of dynamics of your friendship changes. And sometimes you feel like some friendships is kind of like, it's kind of run its course, and then how do you deal with that? Or have you ever experienced toxic friendships?
So I've definitely had friendships where we've kind of just shifted apart, not because they're like bad people, but because of the fact that, you know, we're all on different paths, and it kind of just it shifted away naturally. It wasn't like a big deal. In terms of toxic friendships, I wouldn't call it, I wouldn't say the person is toxic. I would say the situation that they're in has caused a mental barrier between us, and an emotional barrier between us. Therefore, communication on both ends just wasn't as great. They are definitely not a toxic person. The situation at that stage is toxic. But who's to say that at that point I could have done something to hurt them as well? There's always two sides to the story, right? I firmly believe that people have good in them, and I firmly believe that people don't mean to harm people the way they want to. They're just in a stage of their life where they're trying to find themselves, they're trying to deal with certain things. So that
correct. Yes.
I had to double check that in my brain. That kind of thing is something that makes the friendship spiral. And it's best to kind of just walk away from it. And this is both parties. But with that being said, both parties need to have a conversation and be adults about it, rather than dealing with it in a very aggressive manner. And if it does turn out to be in a very aggressive and emotional manner, then so be it. Just let bygones be bygones. Because I'm sorry, we're living in a pandemic, and we're living, like, the world is it's so short. There's so much to live for. There's so much beauty. Why waste it with arguments and disagreements when you can do so much more? Like, it's okay, move forward, get on with it. So be it. Yeah, I've experienced it. Like, I've experienced mainly friendships that have fizzled out. I think the one friendship that I got closure on, it was someone I was very, very close to, but she apologized to me years later. And I was kind of like, okay, perfect, cool, we're fine now. It's like, we don't need to talk or anything, but we know we don't need to. Let's go. Like, yeah, so like, it's fine. Like, we never held anything bad for one another. There was nothing in our hearts, and we kind of just moved forward, as anyone should, really. Like I said, life's too short, man.
You have such a positive outlook on this. I love it.
Who is Googling right now? I'm so sorry.
I can't hear it.
That?
You're
oh,
good.
thank God. Alhamdulillah. Okay.
Oh my God. Also, I've decided that all of the background noises that happen in the podcast, I'm not cutting them out. Like, in my previous episode, someone's family just kept butting in. I was like, that's okay. It's the rawness of life, right? It's COVID.
That's so sweet.
It's okay.
That's
But
nice.
yeah, so now going back just very, very briefly on the friendship front, I agree with you in the sense that sometimes people are just acting out because they're not in a happy place themselves. So it's just about, wishing them well, but also understanding where your boundaries are and just not letting someone else push your boundaries around. And I think that that's what's really important. But yes. All right. Now talking about, you are Afghan, right? Not Afghani. Now I know. You're not the money dollar. So tell me, how was your experience? Because I understand that you grew up here, right? So in the UK. So how was your experience of growing up in a different country and, having a different kind of cultural background? How was it? Any incidents of confused identities?
Oh my God, so many. So I was born and raised here, actually, and I believe my mum came to the UK back in 1995. She went from Afghanistan to Pakistan, then to Libya, so she was in Pakistan for a while. My brother and sister, they speak Farsi, they speak Urdu. My brother even speaks Arabic. I only speak English, bro. And Farsi, obviously. And Farsi. Oh my God, don't come at me, guys. But so growing up, I was always blessed with kind of having an Afghan community around me. My brother always made sure that we would actively, so near my area around West London, we would hold like Afghan community events, like for charity and stuff. So when I was quite young, probably about like 6, 7, 8, I would go to these events, and I've kind of learned about the culture, and they would do like little dances. They would talk about Afghanistan. So it was very sweet in that sense, which kind of, it triggered an interest in me. And I was like, damn, I want to learn more about my culture. And obviously at home, my mum constantly made the effort to, because her main language is Farsi, she doesn't speak much English. She's very cute. So she only knows like, hi, how are you? Thank you. So it's very sweet. She spent all of her life literally raising us. She's a single mum, and she took care of us. She didn't really have time for anything else. So that's all I could ask for, really. Like, at the end of the day, she did so much for us. So to me, the fact that she even made the effort to teach us Farsi is just, it's such a big thing. So yeah, we'd go to these events, and then I think around 7 or 8, I went to Afghanistan for the first time, and I hadn't ever gone before that. So I went, and I was just like, oh my God, this is new. I met uncles and aunties I had never seen before, and they were all coming up to me like, Faiza John, like Faiza my dear, and I'm just
Little
like,
celebrity.
I
Yeah.
don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But I love the retention. No, it's very sweet because I got to meet people and kind of, I think there was a feeling of discomfort, and the discomfort was in my language barrier. So my Farsi is very broken. Like, I speak Dari, which is the dialect of Farsi. So it's quite broken. It's not as good. So every time I would talk, I just felt like I sounded like I don't know,
bit
British
posh.
girl.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, like, Salam alaikum. Like, I just, like, genuinely,
Yeah.
I just couldn't for the life of me, and I just felt very embarrassed. But my family, bless them, they were very welcoming.
Yeah.
They never ever like made fun of me. My uncle, who I always remember, he took me out for burgers in Afghanistan, and it was a different side. I don't remember much, but it was a different kind of side of Afghanistan that I saw then, because conflict wasn't as deep and wasn't as bad when I visited when I was young. So anyway, so then I had come back home, and growing up, as I said, my mum constantly made the effort to kind of teach me the language. And the one thing I fear, I'd say, is I fear losing the language. I fear that my kids might lose the language, because it's that fear of, okay, so my partner's from another culture and stuff, and we both speak different languages, and I want us both to make the active effort to teach our children about our homelands and our motherlands and our languages. The moment we forget about our homeland and and our mother tongue is the moment that we reject ourselves, and that reject the sacrifices our parents made and the efforts they went through to come to this country. Because by no means was it easy for my mother to come here and leave behind her family members. Like, even now, when she speaks to her sisters, she breaks down in tears because they were all the way in Afghanistan and she hasn't seen them for years. So it's just that constant thought of, my mother sacrificed so much, so it would be such a shame for me to not even remember my own mother tongue and teach my kids about my culture. So I try to, actively make the effort to continue finding out what's going on in Afghanistan. I love Afghan culture and embroidery in terms of the attire that they wear, the clothing, the jewelry. There's so much history and stories behind that. So for me, it's kind of keeping that connection through that as well. I love like creating images with the clothing that I wear, and kind of teaching people about it. So it's a lot of fun, and it's very beautiful. Afghan culture runs so deep. There's so much to it, from the food to the people. And I want my children to know that. I want to be like, you're Afghan and you're, Indian. So you need to understand this. And yeah, it's our duty to kind of, I still kind of struggle with, there's this saying, I think it's by Mahmoud Darwish, and he says, I am neither here nor there. So like, you're kind of like this, I don't mean to be all weird, but you're like this floating entity, right?
Yeah.
You're finding yourself, you're going through this journey, and then you go into one path and you're like, wow, I didn't know this about my culture. You go into another and you're like, wow, I didn't know about this like a nation that I'm living in. This is interesting. So you bring both these cultures and you kind of just intertwine them, and you're kind of like, this is interesting, and it's an experience, and it's a path I'm still kind of on, and I'm still learning and trying to understand. The more knowledge you hold about your culture, the more beautiful it is once you understand it. So never ever reject where you come from.
Yeah,
that's one thing I'll say.
That's basically what I was getting to. Thank you for saying it, because you know how like no, please keep going. I love it. Because, I feel like a lot of people in our generation, especially, there is a lot of internalized racism. So then they hate their own culture. And I understand we all go through that awkward phase, teenage years, where you want to fit in and you hate that your skin is a different color, your hair is different, and now what you eat is different, the way your family behaves is different. And then you start thinking this difference as negative because it's not what other people are like. And then you resent it. But I feel like we need to change this narrative, right? We need to reclaim the fact that being culturally different is just adding richness to the society. And like you know, like all of us, we have a bit of everything. As you said, we're neither here nor there. You know, like you have a bit of everything, and that this like
Yeah.
mix of cultures is just so incredible, right? Look at us, we are so fun.
It's so
I
refreshing.
see myself.
I know, right? It's like, honestly, I agree with this because I think when I was young, if I briefly remember, I think at one point I was, and I'm so, it's sad to say now, but I think when I was younger, I kind of thought to
Yeah,
myself, why doesn't my mom know English, right? And
yeah.
of course, like you're
You
a
just want to
kid,
fit in. Yeah, you just
don't
want to
know
fit in.
much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to fit in, like you said, right? So for me, now that I look back, I'm like, damn, sis, I'm glad you've changed your thought process because
Mm,
that is very toxic. That is
yeah.
rejecting your own mother as well. Like it's not nice. So I'm glad I kind of got over that and learned more about my culture. I think that's the only way around.
It's
Ignorance
not.
is not
No.
bliss, guys. So don't be ignorant. That's
Also,
that's
okay,
not the
now
way to
talking
go
about
about it.
your mum obviously sounds like an incredible woman. You know, she made all her way from like Afghanistan to here, and like she took care of all of you on her own. She must have had such a big
Yeah.
influence in like the kind of women that you turn into, isn't it? Like because obviously you're so
Yeah.
open and you talk about all of these difficult topics, and I love it. But what would you say is the
Mm.
biggest influence your mum has had on your life?
Oh my God. My mom is such an incredible woman. Like, mashallah, tabarakallah. She's very, very strong in the sense that she's gone through a lot. She had a difficult, I'd say she struggled both in Afghanistan and then when she came here for some sense of happiness, she
Hmm.
struggled in her own home as well. So seeing the strength that she holds and the faith that she carries, and I
I
have
have read
written
this
something about this
actually.
as well. She,
It's
yeah.
so
Oh, thank
beautifully
you,
written.
thank you. But thank you so much. She carries so much strength. She's so beautiful. So I think one thing that inspired me about her was seeing that she held on to her faith in moments that you would
Hmm.
often forget about your faith. I don't want to say like everyone's in that situation they would forget about faith, but I feel like you're so
Hmm.
caught up in your emotions and your mental state that you kind of do forget. Like it's like an out of body experience, you forget, right? But she held on to that and she would turn to us and make sure we're okay before actually making sure she's okay. So she wouldn't look at herself or her body. She would literally turn to me and be like, she'd be like, my dear, stop crying. And I would be like, she would just hold me. She'd be like, don't cry. It's okay. And then for the life of me, I'd just be like, I just didn't know how she did it. Because I was like to her, how do you carry yourself with such strength knowing that someone else is trying to tear that strength down? And she just turned to me and she's like, because I have God and because I have my faith. And hearing those words, obviously, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand it as much. But now that I look back, I'm just like, wow, she sacrificed so much for us. And even till this day, like now that I see her smiling and laughing, it's nice. Like she's so happy and it's such a blessing. She inspires me to do what I do and she's so cute. Like when I was going through the whole interview process, she goes to me, "You got a man, no, go get the
I
job."
love it. I absolutely love it.
And I was just like, Mom, like she's one of the biggest supporters that I have. I started poetry at a young age and it was because of her. Because like I said, it was a way for me to express the emotional trauma that I was going through back then and kind of word it in a way that made sense to me. So at this point, I was in primary school, and my primary school teacher came into class, and she was like to me, "Hey guys, do you want to enter a poetry competition?" So that was the first time I started writing poetry, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And it got published in the Young Writers book, and it was a really horrible
Oh,
poem.
please.
I was like 10 or something. It was really bad. And my mom saw that, and the moment she saw that, her eyes lit up, and this was like a difficult moment in our lives. So seeing her happy in that moment was just like, maybe if I keep doing this, like it will bring her joy. So I continue to do so, and yeah, like years on now, like I'm 23 and I'm still writing, and she's my number one supporter, and she inspires me. All that she does, the woman I am today, is because of her. I
That's
wouldn't
so
be here if it
beautiful.
wasn't
I
for her.
can't wait to meet
So
your mum, you know. She sounds cooler than you, not gonna lie.
Oh my God, for sure. I love you.
But okay, so now that we're talking about faith and all of that, so you know, in today's time, how Islamophobia is rampant, right? We've all seen it. How do you, because you are, you know, very visibly Muslim, you wear a headscarf. So how do you kind of manage this like life in the West as a young Muslim woman?
I'd say there's a lot of temptations in the sense that you want to fit in, right? Like, of course, growing up, you want to fit in, you want to be with the times, with the crowd, whatever that even means. But I think what is so beautiful about every single person is that they hold their own individual essence and this sense of uniqueness to them. So why would you want to be the same as everyone else? It's just, why would you want to be copy and paste? Come
You're
on,
so
like,
much cooler.
come on. No, like Islamophobia, as you said, it's unfortunately become very prevalent in today's day and age. It's seen quite a lot, and especially in certain European countries. I was going to tell you the story. There was a time where me and my friends, my closest friends, like best friends, we grew up together. We decided to travel to Turkey, right? But we had a stop we decided to get a cheap flight.
Of course,
and
why
stop off
not?
at Ukraine. Let's save some bucks and stop off at Ukraine for a few hours. Oh, worst decision of our lives. So at this point, right, this is like 4 years ago. When I was traveling, I was wearing an abaya. So I was wearing a full-on abaya and my headscarf was down. Because it was comfy. I was like, whatever, who cares? And the stop off at Ukraine was about, I'd say it was 9 hours of us waiting. I don't know why we tortured ourselves, but we did. 9 hours of waiting. So we get off the flight, the connecting flight, and we're just like, okay, cool. So we're in Ukraine now. And we didn't think anything bad of it because there's the people that got off the airplane, they were Asian and Arab. So we felt comfortable at first. We're like, we're chilling. But then they slowly ended up leaving because their flights were getting called, right? And then we were in an airport that was full of Ukrainians. And obviously, we felt
very visible.
eyes.
Yeah.
Like, we felt people staring.
Yeah.
Very visibly Muslim. What can I say? Especially me. Like, I turned up with an abaya. I was just comfortable. So we were very visibly Muslim, and they were just staring at us. And 3 hours had passed, and I was like, I can't take this anymore, because I saw that there was a flight that was earlier. So I was just like, let's just pay 60 quid and just go on an earlier flight, right? I was like, it's not a big deal. I go to the desk, and I'm like, hi, and she looks at me. No, she ignores me first. And she's like, can I help you? And I was like, hi, so I was hoping I can book the earlier, and here's me, I'm just like, whoop-de-doo, I don't really care. I'm like, hi, can we just book the earlier flight? And she's like, where did you come from? And I'm like, London. And she's like, can I see your passport, please? And me and my friend are standing there. So at this point, our mums were with us. So we told our mums to go just past security and we'll see you on the other side. Or go to where the duty free is, or go to the other side, basically, is what I said. And we'll meet you guys there. We're just going to check if we can book an earlier flight for us. And then she goes, give us your passports. So me and my friend are looking at each other like, okay. So we give our passports. And she opens a passport. She's staring at the passport. She stares at us again, and then at us. And she's like,
excuse me?
This is your passport. You're British. And I was like, I literally looked at my friend, and she looked at me, she goes, this is actually happening right now. And I was like, this is not happening. She takes the passport, and she's like, I'll be right back. She takes it, and she takes it to, I think she thought it was fake.
Oh my God.
So she takes it behind the scenes. I don't know where she's taken it, maybe to get checked by security and so on and so forth. So I'm panicking with my friend because I'm like, my mum has really bad anxiety.
She can't see you.
So we're in Ukraine. She can't see me, and we stupidly gave our phones.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. Sis.
You know when you take
we'll be 5 minutes.
decisions all in one go. It's just great.
Literally. So they take our phones, and we're just freaking out, and we're like, okay, maybe it won't take long. 10 minutes passes, an hour passes, 2 hours pass. Me and my friend are frantically running up and down saying, can you help us? Can you help us? Everyone we were asking, they were laughing in our faces. me and her, we ended
I mean,
up
if
crying.
you took a while to get to the crying, I'd be there a while ago.
Yeah, I know. We were like, are they actually
I can't
doing
believe
this
it.
right now? I just don't understand what's happening. And then I think at the last stage of me like begging a security guy or someone that was like in an army suit, and bearing in mind, these guys that were in the airports, they had guns. Like they were walking around like soldiers and like I'm sorry, but how does it look if there's a girl in a baya that's like flying like this and she's running around like, help me, help me. They were laughing at me, which isn't nice, but obviously it was a very, you could just feel how racist everyone was. And that's not to say all Ukrainians are like that, that's not what I'm saying, but it was very obvious in that moment that they just did not want us there. They did not believe we were British. They looked down on us because of our hijabs.
So did you get your passport in the end?
Then I think...
Sis, maybe you went to jail for a few days and then you came back. Who knows?
No, so like 3 hours passed, and then at this point, one of the guys, he actually helped us. He's like, okay, fine. They give our passports back, and they just smile at us. They're like smirking. They're like, we made you wait. We freaked you out, whatever. Right? And I was just there like, are you kidding me? So then at this point, we're rushing to pass security and stuff, and like we get our bags or whatever, and then my mum's on the other side like waiting with my auntie, and I could just see her face, and I was like, oh my god. Because she gets very anxious, and sometimes she just like, obviously her blood pressure goes high, and then she's like faints, and of course she panicked, but my auntie had to remain calm. I say auntie, but like friend's mum, she had to remain calm because she didn't want to freak
She
my
knew
mum
that something was off,
well. She was like, yeah. So she was like to my mum, no, don't worry.
They're probably
the girls
just running
are
around,
They know what they're doing. Here's us freaking out. Clever my backside. We were just, honestly, we could not take it. But yeah, so then by then, like, I explained to them what happened, and
they
that
probably
was, like,
thought
the
you
worst
were like
experience
child
ever, 'cause that's
bride
when
or
we
something
felt.
being sent off somewhere, isn't it?
Honestly, I don't even know. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience, and we literally said, we're never getting cheap flights. We're not going to Ukraine again. We're not going to deal with that, because that was just not it, my friend. But now that we look back, we laugh at it, but it was honestly such a terrible moment. It was so hard to think that because of our hijab, we were questioned if we were British. Imagine, man.
Yeah, why would you have a British passport if you are wearing a hijab, right?
It's so weird. And to think that it still goes on in European countries.
I mean, now in France, right, with the hijab ban. So okay, I was reading about this, and I was like, okay, first of all, it's very clear that it's Islamophobia, right? We can all agree on this. And then the fact that, nuns are still allowed to cover their heads, but for some reason Muslims can't. And secondly, why are we still telling women what to wear and what not to wear, right? Just generally, why do you care what is the woman wearing? But then, like, where do you stand on this in the sense of, like, how is that government passing those rules? What is their reasoning behind this? Like, how do they explain these racist laws?
It frustrates me when a man dictates what a woman wears, and I've said this so many times. You see me ranting on my stories, Sheen. You can't control it, honestly. And I direct this at all men because it makes me laugh, because a lot of them... I'm not directly saying at all men. I know all men aren't like this. They don't do that. But if you get offended by me saying, dear men, or, listen up, guys.
But it's not me.
And you like, it's all men. I'm not like this. Well, then I'm sorry. Why are you getting offended? Just look at my story and pass over it. It's not that deep. But what I hate most is that it's men. It's a bunch of men making these decisions and saying, oh, we don't want this woman to cover up. She must be oppressed. Like, you must be kidding me, right? No woman should be forced to take off her clothing or put on her clothing.
No.
Like, it's not okay. I don't agree with it. It's not fair. And you're taking away a woman's right. From the beginning of time, women have been fighting for their rights. And I can't believe it's 2021, sis, and we're still here fighting.
Literally, to wear a piece of cloth on your head.
Can you just think about this? Think about this. It's crazy. And I think the one thing is that I'm just like, we're not experiencing it in that depth, because if I was a hijabi in France, I'd understand deep to my core how like these women are feeling. I don't know fully, and I can't fathom or understand the depth of pain they're going through. But as a human being, I know that you should never ever say to a woman, oh, you know what, under the age of 18, I just think a woman shouldn't wear a hijab. Like, it's disgraceful. It's not fair. This shouldn't even be a conversation in 2021. The fact that they've already banned halal meat is... This is what I'm saying. Because I'm like, it's so obvious it's Islamophobia. And that Macron dude, I don't even... Whatever his name is. What's his name?
It is Macron, you're right.
Listen, you don't even deserve to be named. Like, he's ridiculous.
I don't get it.
He lives his life directing hate towards Muslims, and it's so obvious.
It's not even
that's
like
what he does.
filtered
It's
or
like
subtle.
a bunch of dudes sitting around the table.
No.
It's not filtered or subtle. And obviously, racism lies deep in France. We know, like, going back for like generations, racism has always been a part of, you know, France itself. And that's not to say other nations don't, like, racism runs deep in many countries, many nations. But what's happening in France is very, very disgraceful. Mom, meeting that
Oh, we are getting some Farsi now. What did you say?
It's my mum. I just said I'm in a meeting. But yeah, so...
Yeah, no, it's just the rules, right, in France. And the fact that, you know, mothers are not allowed on school trips now if they're wearing a hijab. And I was just like, how is this acceptable?
Khalafis! She's telling me about the groceries.
Okay, I love it.
Sorry, say that again, She.
No, I was just saying, you know, with like the fact that now they're saying that mothers cannot come to school trips if they wear a hijab. And I was like, how far are we going to go with this?
This is what I mean. I think it's just... It sounds like a really, really bad movie. This whole year, last year, it just sounds like a very...
Where's the ending? Where's the happy ending?
That we're all in. I know. It's ridiculous to me. And again, it's men that are just sitting around deciding these things. And for some reason, this is what it is. The media has dictated people's views and changed their ideologies, and Islam is being seen as the enemy without people actually understanding what Islam is and like really doing in-depth research. And because we've always been taught, and this whole propaganda on like terrorism, we've been taught these certain things, right? Even from a young age, you see something on the TV and you're like, oh my god, this Muslim guy did this, or oh my god, this is what's happening. And it's always seen on the TV, like we're always shown something like that on the media, but we're not shown beyond that. And yeah, I think when men dictate what a woman wears, that's when you know ignorance has just become the prime of our society, because they would rather live in ignorance than actually take a moment to listen to thousands of women's voices that like they're marching and they're saying we want this freedom because it's actually what we want. And they're
like, you don't understand. You're too oppressed to understand that you don't want this.
It's so wild to me, because we live in a society where you're like, oh my god, yeah, we listen to your voices. Democracy. I'm sorry, babe, you're going towards like dictatorship more than anything, and it's horrible. No woman should ever have to go through another man telling them what to do. It's ridiculous, and it boils my blood.
I was shocked. I was like, how does it get past? Like, how are people okay with this? Like, why is no one doing anything?
How have we gotten to this point? This is what I'm saying. How have we gone to this point where you're actually questioning if the hijab should be banned? Like, they already banned the niqab, right? They went through that whole process of doing that. So it's like, why do you keep taking away something that a woman wants? Like, I feel like they just thrive off of it at this rate. Islamophobia is just
Yeah, it's just the
it's up
fear
here,
of these
and they're
people
thriving
and just
off of
trying
it.
to like undermine them as much as possible. Like even with the niqab, I can understand where they're like, oh, but we don't know who this person is because their face is covered. Fine, you have somewhat of a valid reason where I can see your side, but with the hijab, there's literally nothing. You're like,
No, it's
you want to see
ridiculous.
my
What do you want
hair?
to see? I'm sorry, why do you want to see my hair? Why do you want to see my hair? Leave me alone. I don't want to show it. The same way I don't
Yeah.
want to show you my body. Like, what is the problem? This is what I'm saying, because I think I saw something on Instagram where it said it's crazy how celebrities get like rewards and merits for example, Billie Eilish, she
Yeah.
gets merits for being modest and like wearing baggy clothing, and she's having this like modest street style, whereas Muslim women have been doing it for centuries and years, and you look towards them and you're just
Oppression.
like, sister,
Yeah.
you must be
You must be hot in that. Yeah.
and I'm just there like, I've been asked several times as well, like back in the days, like in the summer times or whenever it's hot, like, Faiza, are you sure you're not hot in that? Like, are you not hot? Like, do you shower with it on? Like,
Yes,
really
I
silly
shower in it
questions.
because that's not hair. That's actually Voldemort's head in there.
What color is your hair, Faiza?
Yeah.
What color do you have? And I'm just there like, I don't know.
Just
I'm
I've
bald.
shaved it
That's
all
what I say
off
to
and
them.
it
I'm
doesn't
bald.
look good, so that's why I'm having to like wrap it up.
Literally. I'm just like, it's none of your business. And as it should be, no one should ever question anyone's attire or how they choose to dress, whether it is for culture or for religion, whatever it may be. It is none of
Literally.
your business.
It just boils down to this.
Dear men, get over yourselves. Save your opinions, because us women, we do not care.
Thank you.
Simple
Thank you
as.
for saying that. I mean, that goes to show, you know, wonderful host of Beyond Our Bubble. I suppose this is exactly what you're trying to do, right? Like, so because that's one thing I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, please do tell us about the story behind Beyond Our Bubble and what's your plan with it. But, you know, I was having this conversation recently where I am very much all about talking about difficult and uncomfortable topics, right? Because I feel like we live in a society that suits only a very small portion of the population. And if we, with all of our privilege and unfair advantages, we don't do anything about it, then what are we standing for? You know, like, what's the point? And I really want to talk about these things because I think I can't really do anything to change, for example, the hijab ban, but I can bring awareness about it, and I can try and talk to people who don't know why this is wrong,
100%.
tell them why this is wrong. And that's why I approach this thing of like, let's talk about all difficult topics. It's uncomfortable. I don't have any authority to talk about it, but I'm sharing my opinion on this. What's your view on that? Because I get a lot of pushback of, if you're going to be in the public eye, you're online and stuff, you should stay away from these things because you can get cancelled, because you can offend people and people don't want to be uncomfortable. But what do you think of that?
Yeah. I think it's very important to talk about these issues because this is the thing, right? Whether you have a platform of, I don't know, 1 or 100 people or 1,000 people, I can assure you there is at least one person out of all those people that actually were not aware of the situation that is going on, right? So it's your duty, if you do have a platform, to at least acknowledge the existence of the issue. You don't need to talk about it. You don't need to go in depth. But the moment you acknowledge that is the moment you are striving towards change, because then that person... Now, I'm not saying people should follow like a herd of sheep. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying understand an issue and actually research it and learn about it and talk about it. Talk about it when you actually understand it, right? And I know social media and cancel culture is so prevalent. It's like there, it's in your face, and you don't want to talk about certain things because you're like, oh my God, would this be a sensitive issue? But personally, it's these uncomfortable topics that allow you to kind of teach yourself as well as other people around you. It's very important to kind of have this discourse, because the moment you stop having it is the moment you've kind of just accepted whatever is going on. And the moment you accept and don't stand in solidarity with the people around you or with what's going on or acknowledge it, is the moment you've kind of failed at being a public figure, because I'm sorry, my friend, it doesn't make sense. You have a platform for a reason, whatever the platform may be about. Fashion, you see influencers, as long as you, if you're a fashion influencer, as long as you acknowledge and understand what you're actually putting out there, then good for you. You're speaking on it. But if you're just doing it because everyone else is
Yeah.
doing it, then that's another situation. Like I said, right? So yeah, for me personally, this is my personal, opinion. You don't need to do what I'm saying, but I'm just saying, like, it is very important, and that's my belief.
I
and
agree. I feel
will
like this
always
is
stick
the
by that.
hill I choose to die on. I'm like, if I get cancelled over this, I'll take it, because
Yeah,
I'm just,
yeah.
even if one person changes their opinion because of me, I am happy. I've done my job,
Yeah, like, what can you really do? You can't control people's thoughts or feelings or their opinions. Why would you live your life caring about what other people think about you, especially if all you're trying to do is good? And by good, I mean you're actually making the effort to educate people. And if that one boring person is like,
Yeah.
oh God, here we go again, just unfollow me, or
Just
just
go.
don't even,
Yeah.
just don't pay attention. Simple as. Like, halas, like, it's fine. It's not that deep. And honestly, not everyone will agree with you. Everyone holds
And
their
that's
own
okay.
opinions. Everyone,
Yeah.
they have, yeah, that's totally fine. They have their own voices, and as they should, to be honest. So yeah, I would say to people as well, when they see stuff online and when they see people talking about these topics, don't be influenced by people so easily, but really just take the time to actually educate yourself, as I said
Perfect.
before. It's
Now,
very
do you want to plug Beyond
So,
Our
yeah.
Bubble? Let's hear. What are you doing? Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay. So Beyond Our Bubble is a talk show which I've been quite slow on, mainly because I'm actually dealing with other stuff behind the scenes. But it's a talk show where, I just interview a bunch of people, kind of like Sheen does as well, and she does so incredibly. I kind of just do story times and just have fun with it, really. Again, I wanted to touch on topics that aren't spoken about much. And look past the mainstream media and touch on topics that aren't touched on in the mainstream media, really. So for me, it was just kind of being one-to-one with someone and really learning about their story. I think that's what's so special. And we're living in a very digitized world, so it's kind of nice to kind of understand and hear people's stories through like a digital screen. I think it's so interesting rather than being like together in person. It's nicer to kind of deal with things. No, wait. Where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought.
Come back.
I'm so sorry. All right, let me read it. Where was I go? I literally went blank. Wait. Okay, let me come back.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry. Okay. So Beyond Our Bubble is just a talk show, the same as Sheen is doing. We kind of just want to, look beyond the labels that box us in. We want to have these intense discussions. We want to look past the mainstream media and just sit down and hear people's stories. I think that's the one reason I wanted to do it. Like, I love talking to people. I love hearing about people's experiences. And I think just being on the other side of that, it's very interesting. So yeah, that's a bit about my talk show. So if you guys want to tune in. I've been a bit slow with it, mainly because, like I said, I've got behind the scenes stuff that I'm dealing with. But I promise I will try my hardest to continue this talk show.
I can't
But yeah,
wait. I
that's
think
Beyond Our
I
Bubble.
agree with you.
So join me in coming beyond our bubble. Sheen, you have to come on the show
Anytime,
with me,
babe.
by the way.
I just thoroughly enjoy these conversations, like it's just so cool to just talk to random people and then you learn so much from them and the conversation is always so interesting, especially
Yeah.
when you're talking about uncomfortable things, right? It's refreshing to hear that there are other people who also
Yes.
care as much as you do. So that's always cool.
Yeah.
So thank you, Faiza. This has been an hour, more than an hour, I think. Yes. But no, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'll plug in everything in the description box below. So do follow Faiza and I will be watching Beyond Our Bubble. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right.